According to the recent research conducted by the Wesleyan College, during the last 5,500 years of history, 14,600 wars have been recorded. It was estimated that as a result of these wars, nearly 3 billion people died. Just to compare, in 2001 the population of the planet was 6.2 billion. During human history there were only 292 years, or even less, any without wars. Such a sad statistic is increased by various countries each year. Those mostly are small-scale armed conflicts, unlike the war Russia started against Ukraine. During the 10 months after the start of the all-out war, the Kremlin launched about 4,500 rockets on Ukraine. Part of the Ukrainian territory is occupied. Thousands of innocent people died because Russia is fighting not against the Ukrainian army, but civil persons. It is bombing residential neighborhoods, power plants, and electricity supply lines. Russia is fighting against those who can't fight back. Russians have already destroyed nearly 40% of the energy infrastructure in Ukraine. If earlier Ukrainians were scared of blackouts, today every Ukrainian is ready for it. Every Ukrainian knows what can be done to have light at home. This is the usual 60-ampere car battery. This is an inverter. Thus, the device converts 12 volts into 220. It is easily connected. You see, this wire is plugged into the socket, and through this socket the current comes into the apartment. The same way we connect our gas boilers to keep our houses warm. The same way we connect our Wi-Fi routers to have internet at home. So we can continue working and donating for the army to drive our enemies away. And during a couple of hours per day when the electricity is on, we manage to buy food at the nearest store, to cook dinner, to wash our kids in a warm shower, to clean the house, etc. Everything that we used to do during the day, we now can do in a couple of hours. For some Ukrainians, the Russian rocket in the sky is not a lethal piece of iron, but the piece of something that ruined the plans for the day. But in spite of the fact that Ukrainians have adapted, they all want the war to be over. In the office of the President of Ukraine, they say that the victory means the same borders as of 1991. That means that Crimea is Ukrainian, Donbas region is Ukrainian. From the end of the summer, the Ukrainian army started a counterattack. They have liberated a significant part of the Kharkiv region and the city of Kherson, the only regional center of Ukraine that was occupied by Russia. The Ukrainian formula of peace means not only to expel the enemy, but also to return own territories. Ukraine should not be offered to conclude compromises with its conscience, sovereignty, territory and independence. We respect the rules and we are people of our word. Ukraine has always been a leader in peacekeeping efforts, and the world had witnessed it. And if Russia says that it supposedly wants to end this war, let it prove it with actions. This is the speech of Volodymyr Zelensky at the G20 summit in November, where he presented a 10-point Ukrainian formula for peace. Among others are radiation and nuclear safety. Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is still under Russia's control. Russian rockets are still falling near other NPPs. Does the world want the next Chernobyl or Fukushima? Ukraine wants food security, because Russia is stealing Ukrainian grain, which should be exported to countries where people are starving. If Russia can't steal, then it blocks the export. Ukrainians need energy security. If Ukraine is secured in the energy sector, it would be easier for neighboring countries. The Kremlin tries to leave all Ukraine without electricity and is destroying power facilities with missiles and drones. The fourth challenge of Ukrainians is the release of all prisoners and thousands of civil deportees by all-for-all formula. Ukrainians want the implementation of the UN Charter and restoration of Ukraine's territorial integrity. And to achieve this, the next point is a must: total withdrawal of all Russian troops and armed formation from the territory of Ukraine. One more threat is the environment, because Russia started a real ecocide. Large areas of forests and fields were burned by shelling. Almost 200,000 hectares of the land are contaminated with Russian unexploded mines and the remains of shells. This area is the size of Luxembourg. After all, Ukraine wants clear confirmation of the end of the war, further guarantees of security and justice. Ukraine wants all guilty in murders and destructions to be prosecuted, and it seems the West agrees with all these points.
The conditions are not there now because Russia has shown no sign of engaging in negotiations which are respecting the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of Ukraine. And again, it's not for NATO, it's not for Brussels to decide. It's for Ukrainians to decide when the time is right to start to negotiate and to agree the conditions. This is about a sovereign, independent, democratic nation, which is defending itself against the war aggression.
And what do Russians want? They probably don't know, because Russian Kremlin propaganda changed its messages again. Now people are told not about brilliant victory. If Russia loses all of a sudden and the court cases start, then not only the government will be guilty, but each and every Russian citizen.
Гаага, условная или конкретная, ждет даже дворника, который брусчатку внутри за кремлевской стеной подметает.
Претензии будут предъявлены каждому без исключения. Пособник ли он путинского режима или мимо проходил, неважно. Виноватыми будем все.
Russians probably also want the war to end, but they do not know how. They still want to kill all Ukrainians, though now they realize that they are not able to. They are still frightening the world with nuclear weapons, though they are not sure if those missiles won't explode in silos before launch. They want to negotiate, but the whole world still needs to find a way to communicate properly with people who, after stealing an electric kettle, try to heat it at the gas stove.